You want to introduce Mr. Jackson to the board, or is that?
I'll do that, thank you.
Oh,
That's
thank you.
okay.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to the Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. I would like to call the meeting to order. And before we begin, I would like to introduce Robert Warren, a new member of committee. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks very much. Thank you for council for appointing me, and I'm looking forward to contributing to the committee. Thanks.
Thank you. And I would like to also acknowledge the staff here today. We have Manager of Operations Jeremy Dullen from the OPP. We also have Robert Jackson and Mr. Chris Angelo representing Public Works and Environmental Services, and Louise Smith, our recording administrative assistant. So, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, may I have approval of the agenda with the additional correspondence, please? Moved by Member Warnham, seconded by Mayor Harrison. Any questions or comments? All in favor and carried. May I have approval of the minutes of April 1st, 2024 meeting? It's resolved that the April 1st, 2024 Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting be approved. Moved by Councilor Reed, seconded by Member Mr. Duval. Any questions or comments on the minutes? And all in favor? Approved. I don't believe there's any public input, but I will ask for public input. Seeing none, there are no delegations or presentations this evening or this afternoon. I would like to get a motion to receive the 7 pieces of correspondence, and then I will read a little bit about them. Moved by Councillor Quinte, seconded by Councillor Edgerton-Boyce. We have several pieces of correspondence from many members of the public. One is from Mr. Mullings regarding safety measures for 2nd Dug Hill Road. Correspondence from resident Sean Pudless regarding traffic concerns on Vermilion Road. Correspondence from resident John Heffernan regarding speeding through Wallbridge. Correspondence from resident Eleanor Ross requesting a crosswalk in Frankfurt. Correspondence from resident Gary Lightoller regarding speeding at Wallbridge Loyalist Road, Chatterton Valley. Correspondence received from resident Melissa Cloutier requesting a speed limit review on Huffman Road. Correspondence received from resident Kathy Atwaters regarding yield signage at crossroads of Holloway and Baptist Church Road. And correspondence from Christopher Robson regarding the intersection at Questwell Drive and Dufferin Avenue. Are there any questions or comments regarding these pieces of correspondence or this correspondence? Councillor Boyce.
Regarding correspondence C, and that's a gentleman, I'm just going to it right now, who lives in the village of Wallbridge, and I don't believe he had any issue with the posted speed limits, because I believe they're 50 kilometers an hour. He just wanted to make it known to the OPP and the committee that they're seeing, with the number of kids in that particular area, they're seeing a number of speeding occurring in that area. So they wanted to make it known to the police that the speeding continues to occur there, and just to through you to the detachment manager, just to make note of it for an issue.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Member Warham.
For the members of the public that have submitted correspondence, I would just like to say that it's certainly appreciated, and as the committee, we've only received some of these today, so I know that most of us wouldn't have had a chance to really review them, but I'm sure that the rest of the committee and staff and myself will take an opportunity to view these, and if they don't come up today, they may very well be come up in a future meeting. Thanks.
Yes, we had most of the correspondence, but we did receive 4 supplementary this morning. Thank you, and thank you for that. I also wanted to note that when individuals wish requests for speed limit changes or traffic calming measures, we have a very detailed policy and a thorough process. So if you're looking to proceed with that, I would encourage you to contact the staff, and they will provide you with the policy and the requirement to have a written petition. So just wanted to add that. Okay. All in favor of the correspondence? Approved. Okay. So our first report or items for committee's consideration relates to planning advisory request. It's a motion from the Planning Advisory Committee meeting, and I'm going to ask Mr. Angelo, it's a motion on page 5 of the minutes, but Mr. Angelo would like to speak to this for committee's information. Mr. Angelo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As some committee members may know, and I think the council members do recall this from our capital budget deliberations, are the plan for Trenton Street, Water Street, Front Street, that section from really the roundabout all the way down to the Division Street, Dixon Drive intersection. The plan is to, when we go to resurface that roadway or reconstruct it, is to make it 2 lanes with wide bike lanes on each side. So that should improve visibility exiting and entering onto the side streets, as well as what we've seen evidence on Dufferin Avenue when we took those 4 smaller lanes and made it 2 lanes with bike lanes, slowed vehicles down, and improved safety of that corridor. And that should address the concerns of the Planning Committee going forward.
Councillor Quinte had his hand up before me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Quinte? Councillor Quinte?
Thanks. Yes, I wanted to just remind people about the active transportation plan that the council approved back in 2018, and exactly what Mr. Angelo spoke to. There's some detailed information from the active transportation plan, and the biggest hurdle with the active transportation plan has been funding to do the projects. So as roads are resurfaced or taken up for review as we come to these different situations, the active transportation plan comes into effect once the construction is going to be taking place. And at this time, as my understanding, there is no direct or short-term plan to do that construction on Trent Street, Front Street, and Water Street. But it is in the plan, so it will happen, but it's not going to be next year. Thanks.
Member Warham, and then the mayor.
Thank you, Chair. A question, if I may, through you to staff. Obviously, there are annual budget considerations and an asset management plan. Is there a timeline or a date when, or a year when this corridor is identified for reconstruction?
Through you, Madam Chair, if I can recall correctly, it's within the next 5 years in the current plan. Again, that's subject to funding and capital budget deliberations by council.
Supplemental, if I may. Sorry. So we have coming up in the agenda a report on traffic calming measures, some of them available as temporary measures. I guess I would put forward the motion that I guess I'm not going to put forward a motion. I'm just going to suggest that we either ask for a report on available temporary measures in the interim, or see if there's consideration on the committee for a subcommittee that would look at this corridor and temporary measures and also long-term planning.
Just thinking about that in terms of, Mr. Angelo, is this something we should look to a staff report for a future meeting? Would that be the appropriate way to address Mr. Warren's suggestion, or just continue with the budget?
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess I have to, referring to staff to take a review and a report back is probably the best solution. I don't believe traffic calming was a suggestion to resolve the concerns. I think it was intersection sightlines of the new development at Davis Street East and Trenton Street that raised the concern at the planning committee level. That really won't get resolved until the improvement to sightlines and the change of the 4 lanes to the 2 lanes with added bike lanes in there. But I can certainly take a look at and report back to the committee at the next meeting.
So we'll look for that at the next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Angelo. Mayor Harrison?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. One, want to compliment our staff and obviously Drain Brothers that did the work on the bridge and Dixon Drive. That's fantastic work. Great job. Great job. And, obviously, when you get the right crew, things get done well. So thank you very much. And yes, there are other places we're doing pavement and repaving, reconstruction as well. And what I've traveled has been well done and very appreciative. Thank you.
Member McCullen?
Just concerning the transportation plan, the active transportation plan. When you say bike lines, through the chair to Chris, bike lanes, so you're talking about the lanes, you're not talking about the multi-use sidewalks?
Through you, Madam Chair, correct. I'm talking about, if you look at Dufferin Avenue, where we had 4 lanes, we went to 2 lanes, and the bike lanes within the curbed areas, that's what we're talking about.
So this is still in the planning stage. Why are we not considering the multi-use sidewalks, which provide a curb, which actually provide a lot more safety for cyclists? You don't see many cyclists on that stretch of road because it's not safe. I would be very nervous to ride my bike down that road, and I know a lot about traffic. These lanes, they only give a small measure of extra safety, in my view. And I've had meetings for all the active transportation when it was being developed, and I thought those multi-use sidewalks were a goal. And if we're still in the planning stage, is it too late to have them considered?
Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe we're talking about 2 separate things. We're talking about roadway reconstruction and what's going to happen on the roadway itself. In addition to that, there's also the multi-surface pathway that we're looking at that's off and in the boulevard that'll happen at some point in the future from Dixon Drive all the way to the roundabout and further north to Frankfurt. They'll come after the fact or before the fact, depending on funding. So they're 2 separate items.
Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions on this particular item? If not, we will just receive that. The motion is from the Planning Department. So our next report from Mr. Angelo relates to Holland Street parking and large truck issues. There is a recommendation that we receive the report, and the committee recommend to council that Holland Street become a designated no heavy truck route. May I have a mover for this motion? Moved by Member McCullen. Seconder? Moved by Councillor Katsovas. Questions, Member Warnham?
A couple of questions through you to the staff. What is the nature of the complaints regarding this this area? Is this from one resident, or is this from multiple people in the community?
Go ahead, Mr.
Through you, Madam Chair, unfortunately, I don't believe the correspondence that the staff received were attached to the agenda, but it was from residents within the street concerned about the safety of their children. In addition to that, there was concerns about the amount of parking on this narrow roadway. Unfortunately, the parking restrictions fall under a separate policy to designate streets as no parking, and we'd advise the residents of that. There's a public process for that. In regards to the heavy vehicles using that street, I had some consultation with some of the businesses in that area, and Holland Street does not need to be used as a heavy truck route. There's alternative routes that buses and heavy transports can use to get to the businesses in that area and don't need to be using Holland Street. And from staff's review, we believe it's fair that Holland Street be designated as a no heavy truck route.
Thank you. So I do have a couple of concerns about this particular request. So if we're looking at Holland as kind of that residential area, it's a short block street. There's really not a lot that differentiates it from Frederick, Gotha, Guelph, Alberta, Bondhead, Gotha, Bentinck. They're all kind of connecting that major collector of the Front Street, Trenton Street corridor to the light industrial commercial area behind it. So my concern regarding parking and heavy truck restrictions on one of these streets is that it essentially takes what is diffused over 8 streets and focuses it on the others. What's to stop residents on another street from making the same request and the next street and the next street until the last person to complain has all of the trucks on their street? I'm not sure which is the more appropriate route. They all seem very similar to me as far as a mixture of single detached homes, mixed use, some light commercial. And then further to the report, it identifies a proposed parking bylaw change that would prevent parking across the street from a driveway. I do think that the existing parking bylaw, which restricts parking within 1.5 meters of a driveway, is sufficient and in line with other municipalities. Adding this as an element of how do people comply with it? Do they comply with it? How is it enforced? Just walking around my own neighborhood, when I saw this, about 2/3 of the available parking would be restricted, which would focus more parking in specific areas. So I wouldn't support that either, so I won't be supporting this.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments? Mr. Angelo?
Madam Chair, just to clarify Mr. Warren's comments, staff are not recommending or suggesting any changes to the parking bylaw itself. Those parking restrictions that are in the report are the exact same conditions or restrictions that currently exist in the current bylaw. So we're not recommending any changes at this point in time. In regards to the heavy truck route, Frederick Street is a direct link from Water Street to HAI. And that makes sense that that be designated, continue to be designated as a heavy truck route. Guelph Street and Gotha Street are direct links to industrial, commercial business in that area. That makes sense to me as well, that they be designated. Holland Street is a bit of a jog around to some of the businesses, so that doesn't make sense that it continue as a heavy truck route, and especially with the new development that occurred on the corner of Stanley Street and Holland Street in the last couple of years. That makes sense to me to designate that as a no heavy truck route.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Just a
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor?
one comment. My question is very simple. How do you determine a heavy truck?
Your Worship, or through you, Madam Chair, there's Worship, anything over 5 tons.
So if I'm driving a transport and with a 50-foot trailer and I'm empty, I'm not over 5 ton.
You're still over the number of axles too as well. So that'll be restricted, as well as with buses. Some of the buses that are parking the large buses are using that street as well. The coach buses, I mean.
It's pretty tricky for the OPP to determine that, isn't it? Or,
Through you, Madam Chair, absolutely not. I think it's very clear when we designate by bylaw the heavy truck routes is very clear in that which are enforceable, so.
Any further comments or questions? All in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Staff report from Mr. Angelo regarding Old Carrying Place Road, no heavy truck traffic designation. It is recommended the committee recommend to council that Old Carrying Place Road become a designated no heavy truck route. May I have a mover for this matter item? Moved by Councillor Quinte, seconded by Mayor Harrison. Questions or comments regarding this recommendation?
and I,
Councillor, oh, sorry, Mayor, go ahead, and then Councillor
through you,
Quinte.
Madam Chair, I agree with this recommendation. That road is chipped and tar road, and it's a 90-degree corner on it, and it just is not built for heavy trucks, so, or whatever you want to call. So I agree with this completely.
Councillor Quinte?
I also agree. And why would the heavy trucks be even going on this road? Like, what would be their destination?
Taking fuel. Fast Freddy's.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
I
answer.
think the mayor said taking fuel, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, delivering fuel to the station there.
Business.
I'm not even sure the name of it on, just, pardon? Free flow. Free flow, is it?
I
Okay.
think it is.
Then this would be a shortcut because he may be coming from whatever direction he has to come from. If he's coming from the north, he's got to make a left turn. If he's coming from the south, then he can get in there and go back down the other way and out, so. Anyway,
Thanks.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor? And that's carried. And our next report relates to winter sidewalk maintenance on Coleman Drive. It is recommended that the committee recommend to council that Coleman Drive be added to our winter sidewalk maintenance route. We have a mover, moved by Councillor Quinte, a seconder, Member Duval. Questions or comments? Member Warham?
Thank you, Chair, through you to staff. Are we aware of any other similar agreements that may exist in regards to not clearing snow off of sidewalks?
Through
Mr.
Madam Chair,
Angelo?
not that I'm aware of, no.
Thank you.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, our next report relates to traffic calming alternatives. This is a very extensive report, and I think we all want to thank the staff that were involved and Mr. Angelo and his team. This report outlines many options that the committee and council consider as they go forward with decision-making on traffic calming measures. Some of them are called road diets, speed humps, I can't say, chicanes, not sure if that's right, traffic circles, chokers, lane narrowing, there's so many systems, medians, pedestrian refuge islands, bollards, pavement markings, solar speed, radar signs, road warning signs, four-way or three-way stops, automated speed enforcement devices, raised crosswalks, and rumble strips, etc. And there was lots of information provided and sample pictures. And the motion, I'll get the motion before I ask for questions or comments, but this is a report the committee was looking for and staff wanted as well, and it's just excellent. And I know it took a lot of time. So it's recommended that we receive this report. Let's see, I'll go back to this. Receive the report on the various traffic calming measures, and that we, utilize them going forward. Moved by Councillor Edgerton, Boyce, and seconded by Councillor Reid. And may I ask for questions or comments regarding this extensive report? Councillor Reid.
Thank you for this wonderful report. It was very interesting, lots of good advice there. But I did have a question about the speed humps. How do they affect snow plowing, Director Angelo?
Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Reid, it's it's something that our plow drivers have to get used to. It's a more gentle transition than would be a typical speed bump itself. That for those that have used the YMCA, I've put some temporary speed bumps in there the last few years as a trial. It's certainly a lot more gently for plows to go over. What we're concerned about as an operational point of view is tracking snow behind that plow because of the hump. But from what I understand, the sand and salt that we're using in conjunction with our plowing operations will help melt that and address that. Some of the suggestions I'm suggesting to our committee today is as a pilot project for 2025, so we can try these. I know speed humps have been used widely throughout Ontario for a lot of other municipalities that have resolved the issues of some of that snow clearing issue in the winter season. So that's why we want to try as a pilot with our organization itself.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious.
Councillor Quinte?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I really like the raised crosswalks idea. I must say, I don't know, does Quinte West have any of these in place right now?
Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, not identical to a raised crosswalk, but similar to, we have one out front of City Hall with the concrete crosswalk in front of the asphalt parking area. We have a similar concrete crossing on Quinte Street by Crescent Drive, where there's concrete crossing it on the asphalt roadway itself. So it donates that sort of separation and gives a bit of a bump or transition from the roadway itself.
Anyway, I thank you for the report. That's just one of the things that I took from the report that I had not seen before. So I like that idea. Thank you.
Member Warm?
Thank you, Chair. This is a fantastic report. Basically, a toolbox of ideas of different options that we can use here in Quinte West in different instances. So on the toolbox idea, are we looking at supporting this in the budget with adding to the tools that we have as far as diverters, delineators, poles, some of the ideas that are identified in the later reports? I guess just a general question of is there going to be budget consideration for this year?
Mr. Angelo, I take that'll come with each project we do or decision, but I'll ask you to answer that.
Agreed. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, for 2025, that's what I'm recommending for some of these pilot projects to give these a trial. Majority of our works are wrapping up this year, so in terms of our construction work, so we're not looking at employing them this year, but certainly going forward in the future, we'll be looking at these type of projects. Where there's concerns raised and the need for traffic calming, we'll be looking at implementing these.
Other questions or comments? All in favor of the report? And carried. Thank you. Our next one actually deals with a recommendation with one of the traffic calming measures. This relates to Couch Crescent, very, very, very busy park area. It is recommended to council as a traffic calming pilot project that staff be directed to install 3 speed humps and temporary flexible in-road posts on Couch Crescent for 2025. May I have a mover? Councillor Edgerton Boyce, seconder, Member DeWall. Questions or comments? Councillor Quinte.
Is this a temporary measure just to see how these work out, or are we going to make this permanent?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm calling it a temporary measure because I'm going to report back to the committee on the success or non-successes of it after a year. I want to bring forward all that information, whether it's an operational plowing issue or whether there was success in slowing down traffic. On all of these 3 projects, I'm recommending that I'll be bringing back further reports, just outlining the success or not of the different projects throughout the different areas.
Thank you.
Councillor Stedall and then Member McCollum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, it says in the report under the financial considerations, depending on what committee recommends, So what is the actual cost if we do go ahead with the 3?
Director Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, for Couch Crescent, we're looking somewhere around $500 to $7,500. Again, depending on the different ones. On Montrose Road, I believe it's a little bit less than that. And then on Baptist Church Road or Leicester Road, I believe we're right around the $5,000 mark. And I believe there's enough accommodation within my operations budget to accommodate for those pilot projects.
In 2025?
Correct.
Councillor Katsoupas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Further to that concern, Director Angelo, may they be reused? Should the calming measures work and then we no longer need them in a certain area, we can reuse these?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Katsoupas, part of it, yes, the flexible post can certainly be removed and taken elsewhere. The anticipation is those might come out in the winter season. I've yet to decide whether they're going to stay all season long. The speed humps will be pavement, so that'll probably be a throwaway if we're going to remove them in the future.
Thank you.
Member McKellen?
Just, I think I understand Montrose Road, Leicester Road. Is there a problem at Couch Crescent?
Through you, Madam Chair, I would say yes. There's a number of vehicles and a number of young children that, well, for instance, during the last special event, there's a number of vehicles that are, appears to be speeding on that street, and we have another number of young children and families crossing that street on a regular basis using soccer tournaments, going all over the place, and we need to slow vehicles down, and this is one mechanism of doing that.
I've seen it a lot. Member Warham?
So I think this will be the first time this will be used in Quinte West, but our neighboring municipality, Belleville, just recently introduced these in Canifton. I was able to go and see them this weekend, and I talked to a few of the people that live there on that street, and they're very well received as far as a slowing mechanism. Just as one potential concern that was raised, and what I saw, is that the outer placement of the poles can restrict the movement of cyclists. In Canifton, I would say that they were placed perhaps too close to the outside, which left cyclists with a choice as far as coming in or going out, which potentially put them into conflict with vehicles.
Thank you for that. Similar when you think of Camp Park and Couch Crescent. All those in favor?
Okay.
And carried. And our next report from Mr. Angelo relates to County Road 5 road speed limit review. This has been, and it recommends that the speed request on County Road 5 from Highway 62 to Walbridge Loyalist Road not be reduced from 80 kilometers to 60 kilometers at this time, and that the committee directs staff to install solar flashing speed signs in this area to monitor the speed limits and report back to the committee in the future. And there's a detailed report. May I have a mover? Councillor Quinte, seconded Mayor Harrison. Questions, Councillor Reid? Okay, she was seconding. Any
Just-
questions or comments?
No, just through you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I want everybody to be aware that, our budget this year was 6.7% in terms of increase, and we've got to do everything we can to keep that down. And I'm just telling everybody, everything we do is costing money. Everything we do is costing more money. I might add that the OPP have not increased their budget significantly in the last 2 or 3 budget years. I think we're at 2%. But I expect that you're going to see an increase quite significantly with many outside agencies or contracts that we're faced with. And, the more we ask to be done, and I'm not arguing that it doesn't need to be done, but I'm just concerned with where we're at in terms of budget. So, Director Angelo, you can say it's you got money for that, but your overall budget for 25 has got to include all of the things that we're putting together here, not just A1, but all of them and the work you want to do as well. So just caution everybody, that's all.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Now we have a report relating Baptist Church Road traffic calming alternatives. It's recommended that we receive the report, and we recommend that the speed limit on Baptist Church Road not be reduced at this time, and there's a full report. We have a mover for this recommendation. Moved by Councillor Reid, seconder Member Warham. Questions or comments regarding this report? Member Warham.
Yeah, it's me again. Question about the previous placement of the flashing signs. Is that in the same area that we're looking at here on Baptist Church Road? I know that there's a development at the northern end of many houses, and then there's, in the midsection, there's the placement of the flashing signs where there are a few houses. Are these in the same area?
Through you, Madam Chair, good question. I'll have to take a look at that. I believe it is, but I don't know 100% or not.
Through you, Councillor Quinte.
Baptist Church Road has quite the grade from where that development is, and I guess there might be some more homes being built over in some of the lots, but the major part of that subdivision has been built. But if you're leaving there and coming either down to Trenton or Belleville or Foxborough, that's quite the grade coming down there, so people probably just let her roll and run down that hill as far as that goes. But if you're going to Sterling, there is a grade on the other side of that hill as well, but it's not as long. And you kind of go into a bit of a valley and then back up the hill as you get to Tussville Road. It's a rural road. It's like really dark at night. It's another issue. So if people are out there walking around, I would strongly urge they walk around in the daylight, not go out at night. And there's lots of trees in certain parts of this roadway as well to shade the road and make it even darker. Anyhow, those are just some observations about Baptist Church Road.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. The next report relates to Leicester Road traffic calming measures. The committee recommends to council that a three-way stop be installed where Freedom Crescent meets the easterly connection to Leicester Road, and the committee recommend to council as a 2025 traffic calming pilot project that staff be directed to install temporary in-road flexible posts with speed limit displayed, as well as placing permanent centerline pavement markings and edge markings, narrowing the travel width to 3.25 meters each. May I have a mover for the recommendation? Moved by Member DeWall, seconded by Councillor Boyce. Questions or comments? Councillor Quinte.
It also states in here about a three-way stop being installed. Is that still the plan as well? 'Cause
Yes, that a three-way stop be installed.
it is or it isn't?
Oh, it is. The committee recommends to council a three-way stop to be installed
Yeah.
where Freedom Crescent meets the easterly.
But then,
Oh, sorry.
but then in our report
Oh.
earlier with the traffic measure, that installing new stop signs was one of the least favorable actions to take. And I can only speak from personal experience, from my own experience, when you install a stop sign on a roadway that has never had a stop sign before, and people don't get it. They don't want to stop. They want to just keep going. And I speak specifically about the intersection of Montrose Road and Richards Way, where there's been a stop sign there since either 2015 or 2016, and people still blow through it as though it's not even there. Even people that live in my own neighborhood, I witness it on a regular basis, even though We've installed signage to say that there's a stop sign coming up, and we've installed solar flashing lights on top of the stop signs that you can clearly see easily 500 meters away. And I just am concerned about a three-way stop or any kind of stop sign on a roadway that's never had a stop sign before. So I'm in favor of the other items, I'm just not in favor of the stop signs. Thanks.
Mr. Angelo, do you want to comment on that at all, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When staff looked at this for different options, and you're correct, Councillor Quincy, one of the last resorts that staff would like to do is install three-way or four-way stops. However, in this case, going from a transition from a rural area to an urban area, built-up area, we believe that it's appropriate that we have some sort of stop function to slow the vehicles down and come to a complete stop as you're entering between those two different zones. So as you approach from the east and heading westerly, you're going from that rural section to an urban section right at the Freedom Crescent easterly exit or access, and that's where we believe that three-way stop is most appropriate to stop vehicles, and you enter into the traffic calming zone then of the urban area to slow vehicles down. I told, as you remember, Mr. Church presented a petition to the committee in the last meeting. I've had some conversations with him since that time frame about different traffic calming alternatives, and one of the suggestions is putting a three-way stop. And at one time, I believe he had suggested three-way stops at both interchanges with Freedom Crescent, but I don't believe that's necessary. I believe the one transition is necessary at this point in time.
Just to follow up.
Yes.
Because there's also a stop sign at the very western edge where Leicester Road meets Ridgeview and Gregory Road. And that was one of the complaints about the neighbors that live down there, that people just don't honor that stop sign either. And I know in the past, we've, and I don't know if that's still today, whether like we would paint the white bar on the road to indicate where the stopping point was. The stop sign is clearly visible. And I haven't received any recent complaints, but in the past I've received complaints about people not stopping there either. Anyways, just an observation. I get that people want to slow the traffic down, and if the motorists follow the rules, then yeah, that'll slow them down. They'll certainly understand that we're transitioning from a rural setting into a residential type area, which is very true. I'm not arguing that. I just not confident that the stop sign is the way to go. So I won't be supporting this. Thanks.
Thank you. Member Warham?
Thank you, Chair. I tend to agree with Councillor Quincy on this. Also, we're looking at introducing a number of different options in a pilot project where we're looking to assess their effectiveness. So in line with Mr. Quincy's recommendations and observations, I will put forward a motion to amend the existing motion to remove the three-way stop sign. And the committee can decide whether that's something that we want to move ahead with.
I'll second that.
If I could just do process, I believe we have a motion on the floor now, so committee can either accept that motion, the recommendation, or turn it down, and subsequently, members can put forward another motion if they wish. But right now, we have a motion on the table.
I believe that we can amend an existing motion.
Only if the mover and the seconder wish to amend it. Do they wish to amend their motion? Do you wish to amend your motion? No. So now we would vote on the motion. Oh, Councillor Stedall. Sorry, Councillor Stedall?
Thank you, yes, sorry, thank you, Councillor. Madam Chair, I will be supporting the three-way stop. I have a difference of opinion. I believe I use the three-way stop on Montrose and Old Stone Road, Sir Richard's Way, every day. And it slows me down, and I've seen many people slowing down and stopping at that sign. I don't see as many people going through it. I do believe that over the years I was there before the sign was installed, and it slows the traffic down. It makes people aware that there is something else that's at that intersection, and it also is a place where I've seen school buses, you know, they stop and they pick up the kids, et cetera, like that. So I think that the three-way stop actually works.
Any further discussion, comments on the recommendation? Mr. DeWall.
Just a question for Mr. Angelo. Are we talking about the furthest east intersection with Leicester Road and Freedom Crescent?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further Mr. McCullen?
Yeah, I don't normally support adding extra stop signs. In this case, I do. And in my experience, we're likely, if and when the OPP have time to spend time there, we're likely to see the local people living on Freedom Crescent get the tickets. But because of the transition area that Chris is talking about, I also agree with it.
Are there questions or comments on the recommendation? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, the next report relates to Montrose traffic calming measures. It is recommended, the committee recommend to council as a 2025 traffic calming pilot project that staff be directed to install temporary in-road flexible posts with speed limit displayed and 4 speed humps with signage. Is there a mover for this recommendation? Moved by Member Warham, seconded by Member Allen. Questions or comments? Oh, Councillor Quinte.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for being there, Montrose.
Yeah, so I have been eagerly awaiting the report that Mr. Angelo's put together with the traffic calming measures. Yes, Montrose Road has received many, improvements to visibility, the road surface, the line painting, the stop sign at Richards Way and Montrose Road, the active transportation to the best that we were able to do at the time. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's way better than it was. We tried to resurface the road with chip and tar for a short-term project, and most of it worked, especially after the contractor agreed to correct an issue that was happening with the section that's north of the CPR crossing. That skim coating, I think is what it's called, has held up marvelously. And if we were to pick some roads to do that on again, I'd be all for it. That really worked. I don't know what the cost of that is, but anyhow, and there are speed cameras, or not speed cameras, speed indicators, one at the north end and one at the south end to remind people that they are in a residential area. And I believe those things work. They certainly work for me when I see them in various areas in other communities and in Quinte West. I see them more and more and more, and really feel it's not going to work for everybody, but it works for most people. I wondered, do you have like an idea of where you would be using these features that you're talking about? Like, you're talking about the entire section of the road, or are you just more in tune with from the CP crossing to where Montrose Park is, or do you have some ideas of what you're thinking?
Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Cusi, I'm really leaning towards dividing it up into 4 quadrants, Montrose Road, and putting those speed humps in those certain areas. And then putting the in-road markers probably every 50 meters or so, or maybe every 100 meters along that stretch. That's sort of my plan at this point in time.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Stedall and then Councillor Armstrong.
So based on this discussion, it sounds as if all of the traffic calming measures are going to be just on Montrose Road. Will there be anything for the traffic that decides to divert over to Colonial?
Mr. Angelo.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, The simple answer is no, not at this time.
Okay. I just live in the area, so I have a feeling there may be some diversion if people get.
Happens anyways.
Councilor Armstrong?
Could I suggest a speed hump at the stop sign at Richards Way so people will use it, maybe? Because I know that road too, and I use it and stop there, but he's claiming people fly through there, so, and it's not too far from the curb. Or you're allowed to do that?
Through you, Madam Chair, typically those speed humps are not placed at intersections. They're placed before or after an intersection. So I guess my thought is one would definitely go between Richards Way and West Moira Street, and then the other ones, one would be between the CP tracks and Highway 2, and then two of them between the tracks, CP tracks and Richards Way, somewhere in that area.
Councilor Quinte?
Yeah, just more about where Montrose Park is, which you've already mentioned, so that's what I would be suggesting as well, is in the area where the park is. And there is also a daycare right by the railroad tracks, but I understand not putting the speed humps anywhere near an intersection. I completely understand with that. Anyhow, I guess we're gonna, and anyways, it's, we're just trying it out, or we're putting it in place just to get an idea of how it works, get some feedback from the citizens, the people that are gonna live in the area, the people that are gonna use it, which, that's gonna be me. And Councillor Stedall, she says she's gonna use it too, because she still drives back and forth to work as well. So we'll be sure to let everybody know what we think, and we'll see what happens. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll go to Mayor Harrison and then back to Councillor Stedall.
I guess that's what I'm suggesting, that we try what we're suggesting, get a report back, and then follow up on that report.
It's pilot. And thank you, Mayor. Members, Councillor Stedall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess the question is, everything is from basically the end of my driveway up to the end of, to where Moira Street is. And, but I've seen, and I've had many complaints south of the tracks from Highway 2 up to the CP tracks. Is there anything for that area at all?
I'll have Chris Angelo or Mr. Angelo answer that. Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Stedall, I guess maybe I misspoke. This is all the way from Highway 2 all the way to West Moira. So between Highway 2 and the CP tracks, there'll be one speed bump, I'm assuming, speed hump, along with in-road markers, and then there'll be 3 speed humps between the CP tracks and West Moira, together with in-road bollards as well. So the whole entire section from Highway 2 to West Moira will be covered off.
Okay. Councillor Armstrong?
Which stretch is longer between the tracks to 2 or to West Moira? Are they equal?
Through you, Madam Chair, the section from the CP tracks to West Moira is a lot longer than the southern section.
Councillor Stedall, I think you were trying to get my attention again. No? Okay. Are there any further questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. All right. So now we're going to move to the Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee Staff Report, Update on Active Transportation Plan. And Mr. Angelo would like to speak to this. I've asked him to speak to this particular report on active transportation with a few highlights, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know some of the committee members have been asking for a couple meetings now for an update on our active transportation plan and where we're at relative to when the plan was adopted in 2014. What I really did is just put together a summary of what we've done in the last 2 or 3 years, because I think that's really important and really shows our efforts and our council's efforts towards improving active transportation throughout our entire community. Most notably, I'll draw your attention to the last page, or the second last page, of the projects completed in 2022 and 2023 and 2024, where we're looking at converting of gravel shoulders to paved shoulders, in Boulevard multi-use trails, bike lanes, buffered lanes. Those are all the projects we've done in the last 3 years, and I'm really proud of the amount of work staff and councils endorsed over the years in improving active transportation throughout our entire community, making it safer for everybody to enjoy the benefits of what our community has to offer. And without further ado, I'd like to entertain any questions that committee may have. I gave some excerpts out of the plan from the 214 plan to show you what our goal was back in 2014 when we first initiated that through public consultation, and where we're at today. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions that committee members may have.
And I want to just add to the full active transportation plan is on our website, and maybe for new members and others to have a look at that full plan. It's quite extensive, and we go through it each year in terms of budget planning. But I do think it's important that we do these updates, on a regular basis, at least biannually here. And are there any questions of the report? Any comments or
Just
questions? If I could, I'm going to go to Member Allen and then Member McClellan.
Thanks. Last year, there was a presentation made about Dam 1, and including that in the active transportation plan. Was that considered at all, or?
Through you, Madam Chair, staff are continuing to work with Parks Canada staff on that linkage. We've had some discussions over the summer season, hope to wrap them up and bring something back to council for the fall, winter season of this year.
Member McCullen?
I appreciate the list of projects that have been done, and I think that's great. I see bikes when there's paved shoulders on some of these routes, and they're still not on them. And it's these cyclists that buy the bikes, the expensive bikes with those really high-pressure tires, they won't ride that paved shoulder if there's dirt and gravel on it. And is there any effort to keep those clear, or is it just put out there? Because I find them still in the lane rather than on the paved shoulder.
Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's something we do every spring season when we're doing our sweeper operation. It's something that we can take a look at, whether we're able to do it again before fall season, but we do at least once a year is clean those paved shoulders off.
Mayor Harrison?
Well, this is a double-edged sword because Greg wants it clean, and I like it wide because it's making it safer for farm equipment. So I thank you very much for adding that space, and there may be mud on it from the equipment, but it's still safer having the equipment on the pavement. So thank you.
Member, Councillor Reid?
Thank you very much for the report. It's great to see, and I must say that as I drive through Quinte West, our roads, I'm just amazed by them. They're always kept to very good standards, and it's nice to have these improvements. My question, though, is I'd spoken to Mr. Jackson a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about March Street. Are we still on target to get that completed quickly? Because I thought it was supposed to be already done, but as yet with weather and stuff, it probably hasn't happened. So my question is, will we soon be completing March Street?
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, if you could.
Through you, Chair. So Drain Brothers, the contractor, should be pulverizing in the next week or so. And then once the asphalt is off of March Street, or it's been pulverized, or I misspoke, milled specifically, paving will commence shortly thereafter. We do realize that the season is almost over for paving, so we shouldn't be waiting very much longer.
Thank you. I know that I've driven up there just the other day, and there's a couple of spots that had to be dug up because they were doing some work with the storm sewers, and that's all good. So it would be nice if it could be completed, and hopefully the weather will cooperate for us, for the residents on March Street, to have that for winter travel. Thank you, Robert and Chris.
I'll go to Councillor Kunze and then Member Warren.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that if you should see debris on a paved shoulder, you can certainly contact Public Public Works and let them know that the situation is there, and then they can try and work it into their daily agenda to address the issue if you happen to see a situation. That's all. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. That really does help. Thank you. Councilor, or Member Warren?
Thank you, Chair. I don't think there's been a motion yet, so I will make a motion that this report be received, and also with the note that Member Allen has requested a staff report related to the Dam 1 crossing.
Okay, so we have the motion, and then in addition to the motion, that an update on the Dam 1 crossing come at a future meeting. Is there a seconder? Seconder, Councilor Armstrong. Questions or comments? All in favor? And carried. Okay, so that was a lot of good reports. We'll go now to new and other business. So I'll just go around the table with each person. Anything, Mr. Dewall? Mr. McCullen?
I'd just follow up on the mayor's comment about farm vehicles making those the paved shoulders dirty. Perhaps if you consider a second round of sweeping for those roads, it might be after spring planting, rather than wait for the fall. Because we know obviously the farm equipment's out there in the spring, and there's definitely a lot of mud in the spring.
If there is, it shouldn't be out there.
Member Allen? Claire? Councilor Boyce?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two, quickly, and my apologies, I missed speaking on correspondence E, and I just wanted comments from Director Angelo. There was a letter concerning Chatterton Valley, the neighborhood, and it's, you know, the road's been improved to the point where there's a lot of passing or perceived passing and speeds. And there was a comment made by the gentleman about a solid line through Chatterton Valley, and I would like Director Angelo to comment on that, the feasibility of something like that.
Mr. Angelo, you want to comment now, or do we?
I can,
before?
thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair. I believe the request was for a speed limit reduction on Walbridge Road, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the same one we're talking about?
I think it's correspondence E, is it not from, I just got to go back there.
Speeding on Walbridge, it was E, correspondence E.
Yeah, but I think it was from Mr. Lightowler, was it? Was he talking about, it says the speeding, but I think it talked about the solid line. I think in the letter was more about the solid line, about the passing.
He is recommend, I believe that putting a solid line through Chatterton
Yeah.
Valley neighborhood on Walbridge
Yeah.
Loyalist Road would help to discourage passing through this stretch.
Yeah.
So that is the correct correspondence.
Yeah. Well, perhaps comments for the next meeting, if you can look at that correspondence and get back to us?
Certainly,
Okay.
I'm just pulling it up now. So staff haven't had an opportunity to take a look at that.
No, it was a new one.
But we'll definitely take a look at that and report back at the next meeting.
Okay, and the second one was just, I know we talked about County Road 5, and this was, and my comments were only the area that I believe the former council made a community safety zone in a specific part. I know there was measures that council had put in place. I think there was painted lines and making it a community safety zone, and then it went to the committee, and they initially recommended 60, but it went back to council, and I think they elected to keep it at 80. And so my question, and I know I've heard from the neighborhood about some concerns, and my question is, how do we, as a committee, determine whether the measures that we're doing, and we did do some measures on that road, and I acknowledge that, whether they're working or not. Like, initially, I'm sure there was a speed spy that was set up to determine whether there was speeding issues, and or a cat spy, I'm not sure what the OPP call them. but to see if there was a speed, if there was a initial speed issue. And I'm wondering if we've done anything since that time to see whether our initiatives that council took are working or not. And so I'm wondering if we can perhaps get a report back from the OPP or yourself, just to say, if they were to do a speed spy and ask them, are the initiatives that council has put in place working, or are they not working? And do we need to look at perhaps something else? And so that's what I'm asking for from this committee.
Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, very good question. I remember at the time, a year after we had placed those solar speed signs in that area on Frankfurt Road, I reported back to committee on the data that those signs are gathering over that year-long period. Those speed signs that we have throughout the municipality, I believe there's 12 of them now, or 15, we gather data on them on an hourly, daily, weekly, yearly basis. And I can give you a summary at the next meeting on all of those efforts that we've chosen and the effect of all of that on I'll have to decide whether it's on conglomerate, on a yearly basis or semi-annual basis, but I can give that data to you on all the successes or not of those solar speed signs that we put in there. We don't need to rely on the OPP to send the speed spy out there, though that we gather the data remotely from those signs through the web.
Oh, okay, well, that's good, because I thought we had a discussion maybe last year, and I didn't think that we had in those solar signs, I didn't think we had the programming available on those to, I thought it was going to be an additional amount so that we could determine the speeds on them. But are you saying that those solar data machines are able to collect that speed?
Yes, they
good.
collect the data. The OPP have access to that data as well, so that they can focus their patrols and focus their enforcement on those times of days when apparent speeding may be an issue. So that helps focus their workload, as well as help provide information for us to recommend to committee or council on how these initiatives are working.
Okay, that's great news that I'm hearing that we do have the data available, because I was going to present that at budget time and asking if we could perhaps get that data, but we're all up to date on them, you're telling me.
That is correct, except for one set of signs that I've just purchased the ability to do that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Just, could I add something to that?
Yes, certainly.
If in fact you're going to provide that data, I don't think it's really complete unless we ask the OPP as well to provide the collision numbers and the complaint numbers for the same stretches, because then you have a much more full picture. You have the actual speeds, you have how many people are upset by it, and you have how many actual incidents are occurring.
Through Madam Chair, that good point.
Manager, Mr. Dolan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't done a lot of talking here, but no, to Mr. McClellan's point, that that is data we would typically provide when requested by Director Angelo, that we do have the ability to, I would say, somewhat rapidly set up what's called a black cat now. It was called a speed spy, so I think the merging of the two words was correct. But the current version of the technology we have is referred to as a black cat. And we have the advantage, unlike the solar speed signs, we can set it up at a few more locations where the infrastructure isn't necessarily there to support the solar signs. They also have the added benefit of not being very overt, so they don't change driver behavior as they're recording. So they're giving us a true picture of what's actually going on. But when we do tender a report back to the municipality, it is accompanied by a collision analysis in that area, as well as a history of traffic complaints or other incidents. So it's a more fulsome package that we provide back for consideration.
Thank you very much. I'd like to now go to, before we go to the right, Councillor Stedall. Any questions or comments? Councillor Reid?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to point out further to Eleanor Ross's letter about the crosswalk at the library, that Jim Turner, manager of outdoor operations, and Director Angelo and myself have talked about a crosswalk at the library, Frankfurt Municipal Office often. They've looked at it several times to find a location that it would work. We've not come up with a solution yet, but I'm sure that it will still be looked at. But it's a very difficult area because of parking lots and driveways and that. So I just wanted to mention to that and to anyone watching that Director Angelo and his staff have been looking at it seriously for some time with myself. So, and perhaps maybe, Chris, you have something more to add to that?
Mr. Angelo?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Reid and the balance of the committee. The challenge we have is that the safest spot for a crosswalk in that area means elimination of 2 parking spots in the downtown core. And that's something we don't, in my viewpoint, we don't want to lose at this point in time. Parking's something that's extremely needed on the street itself in that area. And that's our challenge, is we just can't seem to find a safe enough spot at this point in time without putting it in the center of a driveway, which we're not prepared to do. And we don't recommend losing parking on the street itself.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Harrison?
Yeah, just to the committee and Director Angelo, I'm very pleased with the efforts that we're making to control speed, and I want to also thank the OPP and their efforts to encourage people, if you come to a stop sign, stop. That's it. You know, and let's not go into the system that Bell was using with speeding. That's not what I want to see us do. So let's keep on with our efforts here to encourage people to slow down. Everybody's in a hurry, I know that. I'm supposed to be at something else shortly, but that's the way it is. But thank you very much for your efforts. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Member Warham?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a few things, sorry. Through you, I would ask for some updates on a few things. I know that budget considerations are coming up for council, so just to give the committee an opportunity to hear about some projects that are identified in the asset management plan that may be coming up soon. I know that Mr. Jackson provided an update at the planning committee in regards to 2nd Doug Hill Road, specifically related to the reconstruction of that road and any delays. And I know that a tender has been put out and, a tender for the design of that. Yeah, a tender for the design of that, but I'll let staff.
So do you want to provide us with a similar update, Chris?
Sure.
Or Mr. Angelo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for committee's information, we have awarded the design work of 2nd Doug Hill Road from Highway 2 South to a local engineering firm. They're going through some options analysis at this point in time. We're planning on having a public meeting in the next few weeks with encouraging public consultation on those design concepts. That'll include a multi-pathway, multi-service pathway, urbanization of that entire section with street lighting. We're looking at breaking the project probably into a couple different phases. We have that large trunk sewer that needs to come up from the south end up to roughly the church, and then westerly through the Hillside Meadow subdivision and up to Highway 2 to service the entire west end of the West End urban area. We're probably looking at phasing the project over a couple of years with a plan of coming to council in the near future with a report on strategic planning for the construction of that roadway in the future. So subject to budget deliberations, et cetera.
Thank you.
The trail link that was delayed from last year's budget for Centennial Park to Bain Park, is that something that is going ahead?
Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, it is. Staff have met with all the property owners along that section of the trail. We have been very well received between Jacqueline Grimman, our Director of Community and Strategic Priorities, and myself. And we'll be bringing some reports back to council on some property acquisition to facilitate that trail construction, or at least part of the trail construction for next year. As committee members will recall, we received $2.1 million of funding from the provincial government, and those funds have to be spent next year before March of 2026. Mr. Jackson's team has been preparing to survey and design that trail, and with a construction tender, hopefully in early spring of next year.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. I just wanted to compliment the work of the contractors in the city in regards to the improvements to and reconstruction of the sidewalks on Dundas Street West. And I will ask through you, Chair, if there are any sidewalk projects identified in next year's or the future year's budgets.
Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, upon council's endorsement of our capital plan, we're hopeful that the same $450,000 will be carried through and approved by council in 2025. And if that occurs, we're looking at another section of Dundas Street East, or Dundas Street West, sorry, from where we left off, westerly.
Catherine Street.
Go ahead, Mr. Warren, and then we'll carry on to the next person.
Just one more. This is just a follow-up on the September 5th Accessibility Committee. There was a discussion related to construction access for persons with disabilities. And I think it was specifically related to the placement of vehicle detour signs that potentially blocked sidewalks or trails on the Trenton Street, Water Street corridor. Is that information that you have any follow-up on? Through you, Chair. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, I wasn't aware of the issue until I read your emails, so I haven't had a chance to follow up with staff on that or see what the Accessibility Committee had some concerns about. So I will follow up with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong? Councillor Quinte?
Thanks, and I just wanted to echo Mayor Harrison's comments about if everybody could take a few extra seconds to get to where they got to get to. Speeding is an issue not just in Quinte West, it's every community, and even out on the 401. So anyhow, that's all I got to say. I think I've...
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, did you have something else?
Yeah, I do, but I gotta go.
Okay, well, the good news is I'm going to call for adjournment, and I'm going to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and thank everyone for coming today. Have a good afternoon.
I got a number of turkeys.